tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Matt Keefer. I'm a local author. I grew up in Portsmouth, like, what is that, like maybe 3 or 4 miles north from Newport or something like that. Very close. And so I got my undergrad in English, and so I really, like, since I was a kid, I wanted to write, like, novels and books and stuff like that. So I've got a couple collections of short stories right here. I've got, like, some novels in the process, too. Hopefully something will come out within a few years, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's great. Tell us about The Keepers of Dreams.
Okay. So these two books, they're basically speculative fiction, which is kind of like basically like speculative fiction is what if. That's the big premise. So one of the stories, The Keeper of Dreams, the title story in the first book, is what if there's like a kid in a coma where he kind of has the powers of death. He's a high school student, and he has this great responsibility where if someone is like suffering or in pain or something like that, he kind of has to give them the kiss of death to pass them on to the other side. So these stories like run the gamut of like science fiction and other kinds of what ifs, if you will. And there's a little bit of poetry, and for some reason or another, I write like regular adult literary fiction. I'm kind of jumped around like 4 or 5 different genres.
Wow. So I noticed there's artwork on the covers. Who did them?
So actually, I had a couple of RISD students do them. This first one is this guy called Matt Vidalis. There's a ton of Matts apparently, and this woman who did this one is Allie Briggs, and they actually just happen to know each other through RISD. So I have no artistic talent in that way whatsoever.
Tell us about your music blog.
So I actually started doing like music reviews at the Newport Mercury 2008, and I started the blog the year after 2009. It's been around for 10 years. I've covered the Newport Folk Festival the last 12 years, I guess, somewhere around there. So it's been around the block quite a bit. I interview like a lot of musicians. I'm starting up like a podcast. I've interviewed Justin Osborne of Susto and some other like indie bands, stuff like that. There's this fantastic like Colombian band that I interviewed called Cimarron, and I'm getting like probably an interview every month. It's fun. Like I enjoy it. I get like a lot of free music. I get like free shows and stuff like that. So
Yeah, so that's pretty great. So I noticed like everyone has a start in writing. So what was your start or passion about it?
probably when I was like 5 or 6. Like honestly, like I wrote like these stories. Like the main character was like Franco the Frog, who was a frog by the name of Franco, of course. And I wrote them like in kindergarten, like all the way up to like third grade. They were pretty coherent stories. Like there was like a very clear like characters and setting and plot line, and I didn't realize how different that is for like kids, because like my youngest brother Andy like also wrote like books as kids, like growing up in Portsmouth and stuff like that. And his books are just no, they're just terrible. But like mine, like they actually kind of made sense, and I didn't realize it was a rare skill like at that young to tell stories, if you will. Okay. So this is a flash fiction that I've had published in a podcast called No Extra Words. It is in The Keeper of Dreams, Volume 2. Go buy it. Um, so this one is called A House Burning. What would you take? What would you leave? It's a large house. It's an old mansion. The old wing has collapsed. No one ventures there anymore. The new wing that has been vacant for years. The servants' quarters crowded where we live now, or used to, until the fire came through. We're adaptable creatures ultimately, but to a point. You can't bring cattle into a desert. A bird does not fly through the ocean. Inside there is fire. Outside, what is there? Is there anything to adapt to? Have we even seen that world? Food, clothing, each other. We're staring at the fire, but we didn't know it would be dark. Outside the fire, it is dark. Candlesticks, but no, it's too late to go back. Shelter, too. Something more than the overcrowded caves off in the distance. Shoes, perhaps. It is dark out. We were used to a lot of things, a lot of conveniences we took for granted. Food, clothing, each other. We definitely took each other for granted, especially when it grew dark, when the mood was right to tell stories in that dark, lying back, propped up on a pillow. When I thought of the comfort that might come if only you'd cross over, come off your bed into mine. But that is long ago. It is the fire now. It's what there is, what is left. Its thick lips and long tongues, licking and biting what was once ours. It is hungry, it is always hungry. It is light, too, pain to our eyes, pain to see it flicker out and die in the coals, I am sure. I turn away. the fumes. When will the sun come out? The bureau, the fights, the dancing. There won't be dancing anymore. That isn't true, that can't be true, but there's no floor to dance on, you know? Things we should have left. The money, our IDs. We know who we are, we know where we're from. We know what we've been through. Trudgery, dragging feet through thick muck. The insults, the insinuations, the sneers. Fingers wagging, heads wagging. We've heard it all, and it's passed through us. Sometimes it's just easier to believe. Easier than seeing what's really going on, the fire. It has always been there. It started in the corner, that old wing, but no one ventures there, no one but ghosts and mice and flames. We were too busy keeping our heads down, telling ourselves the black smoke was harmless, trying to drag through the muck like a dance partner, listen to the shouted insults, pretending them music. And here we are, the fire. More of us are turning away now. It's out there, out in the pitch. Was the sun always like this? Faith, hope, ourselves. We failed individually, we're individual failures. They never mentioned history, bands of hunter-gatherers, families of farmers, a phalanx of soldiers. Failures together are even bigger failures, apparently, each individual failing balled into more. They never mentioned that failure, balled into success, but they never had to say that. We just assumed the opposite. They let us assume. We can blame a lot on them. We can blame them, those haughty looks beaming down from those portraits. We can blame them, yes, for that old cigar that never quite put out in the old wing. We can blame and point and shout. Not that the dark would listen, or the flames either. But here we are, the last turned away from the fire, from the all-consuming, burnt in our eyes, burned in our hearts. A true heart never came from anything more than ashes. There is that, at least. Do I know the answer? Do you? We don't either. But I do know a direction and a purpose. There is a pace. There is a lot to accomplish yet, too much. But there is a joke, too. How do you eat an elephant? It is my mother's. One bite at a time. Perhaps that joke will last the first mile. Perhaps you will think of something next. Something mean? Something dirty? It doesn't matter. Something you. But there is a pace, and with that hope and riches and fears. And love, if there is time. Can you smell it? It is dark out. But already the air breathes cooler.
Thank you very much. That was great.
Thank you.
So where can we find these books?
So, right now I'm in the annex, but also you can find them at Stillwater Books. And, oh god, I don't remember the other place. I'd have to look it up.
Where's Stillwater?
It's in Pawtucket.
Oh, okay.
One second. Actually, if you want to give me a second so I can find the other place. Okay, it's also available at Read More Books in Taunton at 330 Winthrop Street.
Great.
There
That's
you go.
awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.